Okay, it's quarter after 2 in West Liberty, Iowa. My name is Victor Schweer. I was born and raised on a farm in the Trappola area and went to country schools. And when I graduated from that, I joined my grandparents in Trappola and went to high school, which was a real experience. I graduated on Friday and the Army took me the next Monday. They didn't wait around. I went to Des Moines and joined the group that was selected for that month. And there was 116 of us, and we took tests, and 28 of us passed it good enough to be transferred to the Air Force, which was in Amarillo, Texas. This was in the fall of '43. I graduated in '43 and in June and May, I forget. And you know, the Army had me the next day. And we went to Amarillo to start the Air Force training. We had a special name for Amarillo. That's the only place you can walk in mud up to your ankles, have the snow blow on your face and the dust in your back, all at the same time. And we had to take more tests down there, and they determined that I needed more math and some different types of training that the Air Force required, and they sent me to Norfolk, Nebraska to the college. And that was a doozy. You got up at 6 o'clock, went to breakfast at 7, went to 8, class at 8, had an hour off for lunch. In the afternoon from 1 to 4 you was in class. 4 o'clock you went and trained for an hour, tromped around the block. Then you went and had supper at 8 o'clock, or at 6 o'clock. You went to class till 8. Then you went to your accommodations. You supposedly went to bed. But they kept us there, and lights out at 10 o'clock. And it was very, very grueling. We averaged one a month, either going AWOL or jumping off the building. And I had passed all of that, and I was getting ready for pre-flight, which was in California. And the day before I was supposed to leave, I got a letter from the government and said, "Sorry, but your flight training has been terminated. You will report to gunnery school in Indian Springs, Nevada." Okay. You can resume your flight training when you've served your missions. Okay, we went to Indian Springs, had a nice experience there. We were on a firing line, practicing our shots and so on, and my appendix ruptured. And I collapsed right on the firing line. Well, all the sirens were blowing, and everybody stand back 10 feet, and I'm laying on the ground. And they come and scoop me up, put me in that Red Cross Army ambulance. It was 40 miles to the hospital, and by the time I got there in that ambulance, I was afraid I couldn't die. So they run me in there, and there's a couple clowns come in. Instead of one of them going ahead of the gurney and one behind, they both went ahead. In the meantime, they'd given me 2 big capsules that was supposed to knock me out. Well, they didn't. They got me in the operating table, and he takes a slice with his knife on it, and my God, that's cold. And I thought those guys are going to fill the drawers. And he said, "Well, it's too late now." And I watched him, and he said, "Here it is. Do you want it?" I said, "Hell no." They stitched me up, and that was the end of that. After I was convalescing from my appendix surgery, I was sleeping in the barracks, and I was right next to the door, which was wide open, and I'm laying there sleeping right next to the door, and all at once I feel something against my face and breathing, and I opened up, and here I'm looking that guy right in the eye. He stuck his head in that door and he was sniffing on me.
And that guy was a
Deer.
with or without antlers?
I don't even remember. And I didn't wet the bed. It'd come close, but And from Indian Springs, we went to Gulfport, Mississippi. That's where we joined the rest of the crew. Here before this, why you were just a guy running around with a number. And there we joined our crew, and they compensated us for being real good and efficient. We were one of 5 crews in the top, and we got to spend a weekend in Havana. We flew down there, and of course it was all part of training because we had fighter planes attack us at Florida and different places, all on film. A terrific experience. And we spent a weekend in Havana when Batista was still there. You went across the street and the cops would all salute you and escort you across. It was a terrific weekend. We got back to our base and went to, it was Augusta, Georgia, and picked up a B-17, flew to Bangor, Maine, and there we were issued our firearm, our watch, and all the things that was required, and they loaded our plane up with mail. We had so much mail bags, the bomb bay was full, and the walkway in the plane you could barely move in there. And from there we went to Goose Bay, Labrador. We got snowed in. Well, we're still working on the tail end of 43 here. And so went to Goose Bay, Labrador, and they get a lot of snow there. And they depend on the dog sleds to bring the food in from the airport to the mess hall. Well, they keep their dogs all pretty well under control, but there was 2 of them that had the run of the field. They were convalescing. They had got hurt somewhere along the line, and you never knew what time lunch was going to be unless they rang the bell, and then you'd hit go for the mess hall. Well, it snowed the night before, and there was to the mess hall about 100 feet from the mess hall. There was a snowdrift almost shoulder high to me, and they had shoveled it out. It was about enough for 2 people could walk side by side. And my buddy and I were on the way to the mess hall in this tunnel of snow, and I hear a terrific noise, and I look around, and it's too late. This big dog went through me like I wasn't even there. And I venture to say that I'm the only guy in the service that ever got run over by a dog. They didn't put that on my record, I don't know why. But then after a couple of days, we took off for Reykjavik, Iceland. And that was a harrowing experience. That's when we realized we were in war. It was a night flight, and the pilot went to the radio room to get a little shut-eye, and the co-pilot and I were flying the plane, and after about an hour and a half flight, we checked in for a fix, and when we got back, my God, we were off about 3 degrees. And well, we panicked, called the pilot, and the pilot and the radio operator both had the machine that they shot the stars with, I forget what they call it, and according to them, we couldn't be off any more than a half a degree. And so the pilot figured out how much we had to go, and our fuel supply, and he said, well, according to my calculations, we can stay on this course for another hour and still do it all right. Well, in another hour, we called in again for a fix, and we were right on the money. Well, when we approached Reykjavik, we knew something was wrong. There was planes ditched on the beach in different places, planes run off the runway, and when we got there and landed, they told us that there was 2 or 3 German submarines up in the North Sea, and they were picking up those fixes and getting them over there. Well, you get up there, there's no return, you run out of fuel. Well, they dumped 6 B-17s and crew, 9 to every plane, before they discovered what was going on. And then they sent couple sub chasers up there and got them out of there. From Reykjavik, Iceland, we went to Valley, Wales. We left our plane and mail there and got on a train and went to Ipswich, England, which was our base. And I got there the night of Christmas Eve, 1943. And we were only there 2 days, and when the show began. And I think we bombed every big city, and even the little ones. Berlin a couple of times, Frankfurt a couple of times, all the major cities. And it was an experience. And I had my encounter with the German fighters over Berlin, the 18th day of March of 1945, that was. And that was an experience. And I lived a charmed life. The German fighter come out on me, and our tracers were crossing one another, and I raised up a little bit before he did, and I took him out. His black cloud, he bailed out, and I thought, whatever you want to call him. But I didn't. I'm a better man than that, and you got 30,000 feet to get to the ground, so I have a happy trip. And in the meantime, my gun jammed.
And you were in what gun?
In the tail. I'm in the tail.
Tail of the
B-17. And that, well, if you ever seen a B-17, there's only room for the guns. And I laid on my stomach and got way in there to try to do something. And in the meantime, we got hit with a big burst of flak. It knocked out my whole glass dome and about a 3-foot chunk out of the tail. And it shook so bad, I thought the tail was shot off. I had myself drifting over Germany in the tail. And when I raised up, I discovered what had happened. And the pilot is trying to call me, he's panicking. What's going on back there? Well, in the meantime, all my phone and everything had got disconnected, and I couldn't communicate. Well, after a little bit, I got him all hooked up again, and calmed the pilot down, said everything's fine, I'm okay. And we headed back to England. With all that experience, I ended up going over Germany, bombing major cities 30 times with bombs. And when the war was over with, as you were all aware of, the Germans had bombed out all the dikes, and Holland was one bed of water. The boats were tied to the second floor windows, and they had picked a high spot on a hill, a big high hill, and put a big white cross on it. And we had our bomb bays full of K rations, all double, triple strapped and so on. And we'd fly over to this white cross, and with just about the wheels on the ground and almost at a stall, hit that bomb bay catch and 6,000, 7,000 pounds of that went out all at one time. That plane shot up in the air about 100 feet. And, which, you know, all fun and games. And after about the third or fourth mission, because of the wind and so on, we had to make a turn over the WWII. And that is the most beautiful blue water in the world. And there in the water, the Hollanders had spelled out "thank you" in red tulips. It was a most beautiful sight, and I'll never forget it. And so the pilot made another swing, and we dropped right down. I don't think we were over 1,500 feet to take a look at these tulips again. And then we headed for home. Guys coming down the water canals over there, just loaded with tulips. And we said, oh, they probably got a tulip festival somewhere. And one of these days we happened to make a left turn over, and there it was. We knew why they were hauling tulips.
Wow.
It's just...
Wow.
At one time we were flying over Holland. The pilot says, let's go down and see what it is. And we were flying so low, just missing the rooftops. I could see the ladies' skirts blowing and up there looking out the window. And all at once he flips that thing on his side. And what is going on here? And there's a church on both sides. And he wouldn't have gotten through there flying level. He flipped around his side. So there's a world of stories. 30 combat missions and 6 food missions. Yeah, the most exciting part is when they shoot at you and they miss. Well, we sucking on that artificial oxygen like you were in those days. You could only do that for so many hours, and then you got a 3-day pass and you had to recuperate. Well, we were 90 minutes from London, so where do you think we went? We ended up in London, and unfortunately, 2 times while we were in there on pass, our entire group was shot down but one plane. And it's frightening when you go to your barracks and the other crew isn't there, and they're not there in the morning. Well, then don't take long, your master sergeant comes up and explains to you what happened. And that happened to our group twice. And we were branded 2 names, the Bloody 100th or the group of Vanishing Americans. So we were known all over because they tried to wipe us out, but we always had one left over. When I went into service, I was a PFC like everybody is. And all along the line, I got advances. And I left the service being a master sergeant. I was up for a tech sergeant. It's on my records, but I never got it. I wasn't going to wait around for it. I wanted to get out. And so that was my in 45 in August.
And when did you leave the military then?
As soon as they wrote me off. Oh, I come home on the Queen Mary. There was 18,000 of us on the Queen Mary. All the swimming pools and everything were dry, and they had bunks in there, 8 high in the swimming pools. You could just barely walk in there. And the dining room had stand-up bars, and they served food 24 hours a day.
How long did it take them?
4.5 days. 4.5 days. And we sat in front of the Statue of Liberty for about a good half a day, We were close enough along the shore you could almost shake her hand, because the Queen Elizabeth was in port, and at that time there was only one port that could handle the Queens. So we had to sit out there in the bay and wait for the...
That's pretty.
Yes, the whole crew is gone except the navigator, the pilot, and myself. We're the only three that are left out of 9. In '02, we had a group reunion in Salt Lake City. And I think everybody that was still breathing was there, which I really enjoyed. I hadn't seen them for a long, long time. And it wasn't long after that why they start dropping by the wayside. But there's 3 diehards left. Well, if you don't have a job that suits you and it's payable, join the service. Number one, it makes a man out of a boy in just a short order, which a lot of our people need today. And you just can't beat it. And there's so many benefits that are available to you if you keep your nose clean when you get out of the service that will help you, continue on your man. The best part of the whole thing is when you get shot at and they miss. I come back alive. Well, a couple things. You assumed a lot of responsibility. I got out of the service and I got into sales and marketing, and I was in that for 40 years. And you meet so many great people. You can't explain it. You shake the bushes and you just don't know what. And I'll never forget, I had an experience. Well, first of all, I had a terrific rapport with all my salesmen, the people I worked with. And we had a problem with our sales group in New Orleans. It was a broker, he had about 10 men working for him. And he said, "Vic, I can't get these guys off a dead center. Can you come down and help?" Sure. So I went to New Orleans, he had a meeting in some hotel room. And had all the guys there were introduced. And so I give them the works. And it was very well accepted. And I'll never forget, the boss put his hand on my shoulder and he said, "Vic, I don't know how the devil you do that." He said, "You could have told those guys to go to hell and they'd just wait for the trip."
Yeah.
He said, "You certainly had their attention." And in about a month, he called me back and he said, "Vic, I didn't get you down here soon enough. They haven't been the same since." So, and I've enjoyed that throughout my career in sales and marketing. And I was all over. I was in Italy and Germany and Holland, you name it. Most all the states, but a couple. We got, I had 2 girls and Betty had 2 boys.
We have 8 grandchildren and 11 great-grandchildren. And this fall, in September, I play the piano. I'll expound on that. I play the piano, and my granddaughter, bless her heart, asked me to play at this wedding. So I've been at home now. I have all my music out already, and mind you, it isn't until September. But I can play Here Comes a Bride almost every day. So Vic will listen to it. He'll have it memorized, I'm sure. But we've had a good life. We owned and operated the jewelry store here in town, which is now the Chinese restaurant. And we had that restaurant for 25 years. And Vic and I made...
Not restaurant, jewelry store.
Jewelry store. And we've made hundreds of friends. So Vic always said that a stranger comes in, but a friend leaves. So we sort of live by that.
Wonderful.
But we've had a good life. And I'm 87, and Vic's 87, and going to be 88. So how about that? That's a plus, isn't it?
Absolutely.
But who's counting?